Loudun is a small town in France about midway between the ancient and romantic cities of Tours and Poitiers. Today it is an exceedingly unpretentious and an exceedingly sleepy place, but in the 17th century it was in vastly better estate. Then its markets, its shops, its inns lacked not business, its churches were thronged with worshippers. Through its narrow streets, proud noble and prouder ecclesiastic, thrifty merchant and active artisan, passed and repassed in an unceasing stream. It was rich in points of interest, preeminent among which were its castle and its convent. In the castle, the stout-hearted Loudunians found a refuge and a stronghold against the ambitions of the feudal lords and the tyranny of the crown. To its convent, pleasantly situated in a grove of time-honoured trees, they sent their children to be educated. It was from the convent that the devils were let loose to plague the good people of Loudun. It came into being in 1616 and was of the Ursuline order, which had been introduced into France not many years earlier. From the first it proved a magnet for the daughters of the nobility, and soon boasted a goodly complement of nuns. At their head as Mother Superior was a Jeanne de Bellefille of noble birth and many attractive qualities, but with characteristics which wrought much woe to others, as well as to the poor lady herself. She laboured tirelessly in the interests of the convent, and in this respect was ably seconded by its father confessor, worthy Father Mousseau, a man of rare good sense and possessing a firm hold on the consciences and affections of the nuns. Conceive their grief, therefore, when he suddenly sickened and died. Now ensued an anxious time pending the appointment of his successor. Two names were foremost for consideration, that of Jean Mignon and that of Urbain Grandier, curé of St. Peter's of Loudun. Mignon was a zealous and learned ecclesiastic, but belied his name by being cold, suspicious, and, some would have it, unscrupulous. Grandier, on the contrary, was frank and ardent and generous and was idolized by the people of Loudun, but he had serious failings. He was most unclerically gallant, was tactless, was over-ready to take offence, and his wrath, once fully roused, was unrelenting. Accordingly, little surprise was felt when the choice ultimately fell, not on him but on Mignon. With Mignon the devils entered the Ursuline convent. Hardly had he been installed when rumours began to go about of strange doings within its quiet walls, and that there was something in these rumours became evident on the night of October 12, 1632, when two magistrates of Loudun, the baillie and the civil lieutenant, were hurriedly summoned to the convent to listen to an astonishing story. For upwards of a fortnight it appeared several of the nuns, including the Mother Superior, had been tormented by spectres and frightful visions. Latterly, they had given every evidence of being possessed by evil spirits. With the assistance of another priest, Mignon had succeeded in exorcising the demons out of all the afflicted, save the Mother Superior and a Sister Clare. In their case, every formula known to the ritual had failed. The only conclusion was that they were not merely possessed, but bewitched, and much as he disliked to bring notoriety on the convent, the father confessor had decided it was high time to learn who was responsible for the dire visitation. He had called the magistrates, he explained, in order that legal steps might be taken to apprehend the wizard, it being well established that devils, when duly exorcised, must speak the truth, and that consequently there could be no doubt as to the identity of the offender should the evil spirits be induced to name the source of their authority. Without giving the officials time to recover from their amazement, Mignon led them to an upper room, where they found the Mother Superior and Sister Clare, wan-faced and fragile-looking creatures on whose countenances were expressions of fear that would have inspired pity in the most stony-hearted. About them hovered monks and nuns. At sight of the strangers, Sister Clare lapsed into a semi-comatose condition, but the Mother Superior uttered piercing shrieks and was attacked by violent convulsions that lasted until the father confessor spoke to her in a commanding tone. Then followed a startling dialogue, carried on in Latin between Mignon and the soi-disant demon possessing her. "Who has sent them?" an official asked. After a moment's hesitation, the nun uttered a single word. "Urbain. Tell us his surname." "Grandier." In an instant the room was in an uproar, but the magistrates did not lose their heads. To the bailiff in especial, the affair had a suspicious look. He had heard the devil speak worse Latin than a boy of the 4th class. He had noted the Mother Superior's hesitancy in pronouncing Grandier's name, and he was well aware that deadly enmity had long existed between Grandier and Mignon. So he placed little faith in the latter's protestation that the naming of his rival had taken him completely by surprise. Consulting with his colleague, he coldly informed Mignon that before any arrest could be made, there must be further investigation, and promising to return next day, bade them good night. Next day found the convent besieged by townspeople, indignant at the accusation against the popular priest, and determined to laugh the devils out of existence. Grandier himself, burning with rage, hastened to the bailiff and demanded that the nuns be separately interrogated, and by other inquisitors than Mignon and Barré. In these demands the bailiff properly acquiesced, but on attempting in person to enforce his orders to that effect, he was denied admittance to the convent. Excitement ran high, so high that, fearful for his personal safety, Mignon consented to accept as exorcists 2 priests appointed, not by the bailiff, but by the Bishop of Poitiers, who, it might incidentally be mentioned, had his own reasons for disliking Grandier. Exorcising now went on daily, to the disgust of the serious-minded, the mystification of the incredulous, the delight of sensation-mongers, and the baffled fury of Grandier. So far the play, if melodramatic, had not approached the tragic. Still there were circumstances which tended to inspire conviction in the mind of many. The convulsions of the possessed were undoubtedly genuine, and undoubtedly they manifested phenomena seemingly inexplicable on any naturalistic basis. Some, when comatose, became supple like a thin piece of lead, so that their body could be bent in every direction, forward, backward, or sideways, till their head touched the ground, and that others showed no sign of pain when struck, pinched, or pricked. Then too they whirled and danced and grimaced and howled in a manner impossible to anyone in a perfectly normal state. For a few brief weeks Grandier enjoyed a respite thanks to the intervention of his friend, the Archbishop of Bordeaux, who threatened to send a physician and priests of his own choice to examine the possessed, a threat of itself sufficient, apparently, to put the devils to flight. But they returned with undiminished vigour upon the arrival in Loudun of a powerful state official who, unfortunately for Grandier, was a relative of Mother Superior Belfield's. This official, whose name was Laubardemont, had come to Loudun on a singular mission. Richelieu, the celebrated cardinal statesman, in the pursuit of his policy of strengthening the crown and weakening the nobility, had resolved to level to the ground the fortresses and castles of interior France, and among those marked for destruction was the castle of Loudun. Thither, therefore, he dispatched Laubardemont to see that his orders were faithfully executed. Naturally, the cardinal's commissioner became interested in the trouble that had befallen his kinswoman, and the more interested when Mignon hinted to him that there was reason to believe that the suspected wizard was also the author of a recent satire, which had set the entire court laughing at Richelieu's expense. Back to Paris, the commissioner galloped to carry the story to Richelieu. The cardinal's anger knew no bounds. From the king he secured a warrant for Grandier's arrest, and to this he added a decree investing Laubardemont with full inquisitorial powers. Events now moved rapidly. Though forewarned by Parisian friends, Grandier refused to seek safety by flight and was arrested in spectacular fashion while on his way to say Mass. His home was searched, his papers were seized, and he himself was thrown into an improvised dungeon in a house belonging to Mignon. Under these circumstances, Grandier was doomed from the outset, but he made a desperate struggle, and his opponents were driven to sore straits to bolster up their case. The devils persisted in speaking bad Latin, and continually failed to meet tests which they themselves had suggested. But such fiascos availed nothing to save Grandier. Neither did it avail him that before sentence was finally passed, Sister Claire, broken in body and mind, sobbingly affirmed his innocence, protesting that she did not know what she was saying when she accused him. Nor that the Mother Superior, after 2 hours of agonizing torture self-imposed, fell on her knees before Laubardemont, made a similar admission, and passing into the convent orchard tried to hang herself. The commissioner and his colleagues remained obdurate, averring that these confessions were in themselves evidence of witchcraft, since they could be prompted only by the desire of the devils to save their master from his just fate. In August 1674, Grandier's doom was pronounced. He was to be put to the torture, strangled and burned. This judgment was carried out to the letter, save that when the executioner approached to strangle him, the ropes binding him to the stake loosened, and he fell forward among the flames, perishing miserably.